that time allowed things to deteriorate to such a point that its own citizens were killing each other. Understand that. And understand that by manipulation, we could be drawn to such a situation again. This is something that we need to avoid at any cost. So again, I go back over and refer to, let's just suppose our government was perfect, as our founding fathers established it, and we are running right along like that. Now, we've been through that first war, the American Revolution. We've been through that second war, the Civil War, the War of Northern Aggression. We've been through that war. The third war, if you think that 2 out of 3 have come true, you have to believe, I'm not really a betting man, but I would understand that if 2 out of 3 of this man's predictions, these visions given to him by God have come true, that we will be subject to the third. The third is the whole world united against us. George Washington's own words. The whole world united against us. Now, I started this on aggression, didn't I? What does that sound like? Now, if we totally ignore, again, going back to that perfect government, let's just say la-di-da, everything's perfect here. There is still that third war coming to this continent. Coming to this continent. I have no doubt about that. I'll tell you that when I was a young man reading, I read everything I could about George Washington. When I came across 2 different books, you probably won't find them in the school library anymore, where I found them, 40-some years ago. But when I read Washington's visions, I was befuddled. I was confused. I could not understand. I was raised in that America where I was told that the whole world loves America. Now look at where we are. Look at where we are. And understand that that 10-year-old boy could not understand. Why would the whole world be united against us? Well, let's just ponder on that for a moment. Could it be that they hate our freedom? Could it be that maybe it isn't they hate our freedom? Could it be that they do not like and cannot grasp or understand what our government is doing to us? Let alone, they don't have concern about what our government is doing to us. Because, see, that's an internal problem. Why the whole world would hate us, and we're seeing this form. We've heard generals, Marine generals talk about our actions are causing the whole world to hate us. We have heard senators and congressmen refer basically to the same thought line. The whole world hating us. Now, I've said it before on the air, if an American has to kill an American to make this right, show me who to shoot. Show me who to shoot. We'll get that done. Let's get that out of the way. Let's make that last 1/4 of 1 second and be ready for that war that's coming to this continent. That's my goal. Because we're going to need every man, every woman. It's been said that the last wars in this third war on the American continent, it has been said that this is a hard thing to get out. But it has been said that, and I'm repeating myself again, that most of the battles at the end of that war will be fought greatly proportioned by women, because most of the men who have been killed in early battles. So, you've heard me say it before. Train your wife how to shoot. Train your children how to shoot. I would much rather we came here and went out and had a nice picnic. Went out, enjoyed the food that's going to be cooked here in a little while, and we all just had a good time. But this is where we are. Whether it's internal aggression or something, again, as the whole world united against us, we stand on the brink of this. We're looking at this in 30 days. We're looking at this in 30 years. Whatever. Compare that inch to a mile. It will happen. And I don't think it'll be 30 years. I don't think it'll be 30 years. If you look to another piece of history, one might have come across a copy or had a copy described to you of the letter from Pike to Mussolini. Now, Pike was an Illuminist. Mussolini, the founder of what we now know as the modern-day mafia, he was an Illuminist. They plotted 3 wars. And if you know the history of that, the first war was to bring about the fall of the House of Romanov, the Tsars, to put an end to the rule of the czars for what the fathers, a couple generations back, had done to the Illuminists, brought their plan to the public. There were those inside the Illuminati that swore they would bring about the fall of the czars, the death, and that happened. They lined his family up and machine gunned him. Now that's aggression, isn't it? They lined his family up and machine gunned him. And there are those, I'm going to put this over here, there are those that say, well, the Russians killed 40, 50 million of their own people in that time frame until they became nice people. Pardon me. But I need to gain that train of thought. Give me a moment. Again, this coming war will not be avoided. This is the letter from Pike to Musini described 3 wars that would beat humanity's spirit into submission. The first, the fall of the House of Romanov. The second, to elevate Russia to the relative strength of the West. So they had a boogeyman to point to. Look, we have to encourage the military-industrial complex. Remember, you might have seen as of late films of Truman talking about the military-industrial complex. And this is a thing that, it's been said that if my opponent has his fist, I better need to know how to use my fist. If my opponent comes to me with a club, I better have a club. If my opponent, and it goes up and up the scale, doesn't it? Edged weapon, knife, sword, gun. So you should be able to equally oppose aggression. Match that force at least. And then hopefully your opponent will leave. If you come up with a little more force, well, maybe your opponent won't go home. But maybe they won't send any more soldiers. You know where I'm going with that one. Now, there are those, and I'm going to go back, and I'll be done in just a moment. I thank you very much for your patience. But, again, I go back to that young boy, steeped in the church, taught to turn the other cheek. Well, a couple people gave me this and that and the other thing, and I read this and that. And I'll tell you that one of the books that changed my direction, it wasn't a Christian book. It was a book called Samurai. It was a book that was written by Martin Caidin, a great World War II author, and Saburo Sakai, who was the surviving Japanese highest ace. And he gave his accounts. And he gave his accounts of Shinto and Buddhism and the ability to take his religion. Because, see, I was only taught a dinky little portion of Christianity as that young man. There was a time Jesus was speaking to a crowd, and the crowd did not like him. They were basically demons and pagans and people who had worshipped fish and worshipped rocks. You know what I mean? They didn't like him. They wanted to stone him. He would have had that crowd had their way. There would have never been any salvation for any of us. For any of us, had that crowd had its way. Now, he moved through the crowd. He moved through the crowd, We know that he reached in a bucket one day or a basket and produced endless amounts of fish and bread. We know that. I believe that. Amen. And I know that I'm sorry about the effects there. I believe that. I have no doubt about that. But I also have no doubt that when he moved through that crowd, he had to put his hands on men that wanted to kill him. He didn't move through the crowd and mystically, magically, people fell down